So the preview for episode 5 of True Detective Night Country has just been released, and it's safe to say that it looks like after what could be considered a slower, character-based episode in episode 4, this one looks like the pace is going to increase and set the tone for the final 2 episodes of the season. With the Super Bowl being this coming Sunday, that means that episode 5 is actually getting an early release. It's going to be available to stream from Friday the 9th of Feb, so we've not got our usual wait time of a week to see what happens. So with that, I thought I'd break down and explain the trailer whilst also giving my theories and predictions on what I think will happen next. So let's get into it. Here is True Detective Season 4 Episode 5 Trailer Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for this episode opened up by really leaning into the dark, supernatural undertones which have been present throughout the entirety of this season. We heard the line, Evangeline, being said to Evangeline in a spooky way. When looking at the subtitles for this section, it merely said spirit, rather than telling us the name of which spirit it was. It looked like Evangeline was out in the night, and one could only presume on the ice due to the sheer darkness that was surrounding her. This part of the trailer was intercut with 4 of the 5 times that Evangeline had encountered the dead in some kind of way. But on these 4 occasions specifically, the same thing happened. The little boy outside her car pointed towards her, Lund pointed towards her, Wheeler's girlfriend that he killed pointed towards her, and her mother also pointed towards her too. However, the shot of her mother wasn't from when she was dead, it was from a flashback from when the curse seemingly had hold of her mother. This is why all of the dead seem to be mimicking her, because it seems like it's her mother who's communicating with her. If the curse is real, it seems to be directly stemming from her mother. We must remember as well that Julia saw her moments before she died. She was lying dead underneath the bed and then looked directly at her. It seems like Evangeline's mother wants to take Evangeline with her, like she did with Julia, which is the 3rd reason why the dead tend to visit. It's a more sinister approach and intention compared to when Rose sees Travis. When Lund saw Evangeline, he said, "Your mother says hello, she's waiting for you." There's been something about that scene that I've not been able to shake since last week, and it's the fact that this happened when Evangeline was on her own and nobody else was around. So it makes me think that what we're witnessing with her seeing the dead is purely happening inside of her mind. There seems to be trauma that stems back to the death of her mother. In fact, even way before that with her mother, and we know that the killer of her is somebody that was never found. What if Evangeline is the killer of her mother, and she's not been able to shake the guilt that's buried beneath her? Hence the fear when she saw the crucifix of her mother's in the car, and also why the dead are mimicking her mother, because that's the image that she's got in her head. It could also explain why she's looking like she's spiraling out of control, because it's all catching up with her. It's just one theory for now, but I think it's plausible, and one that could explain why Evangeline seems to be spiraling out of control and the dead seem to be mimicking her mother and are saying that she's waiting for her. The next part of the trailer was then focused on Liz, as she said the line, the Annie K case, the Salal investigation, the 2 cases are linked. This was then followed by a response from Connolly where he said, "This case is closed, Liz," showing that due to the bodies being handed over to Anchorage, on her part it could now be closed, and she may no longer need to be involved. Or he could be referring to the Annie K case and saying how it's been closed for a while due to the fact that the killer was never caught. So he may feel that there's no point in reopening it and causing more work. As this line was being spoken, it looked like the police force were on their way to the Silver Spring mining factories, as can be seen due to the 2 similar shots from the protest and also with the police heading towards that building in the distance. Plus, it also looked like Liz and Evangeline were going to stumble across something which looked suspicious. A load of chopped up wood looking like it was covering something. This seems to be at the same location as well due to the sign that's in front of it. Could this be the access to the ice caves that they saw? And maybe it was covered up to stop other people from finding them, hence why Annie K was pleased when she found the location that she was looking for. She was against the mining facility, remember. The next line that we had in the trailer was spoken by Liz, and she said she needs to realize how vulnerable she's making herself. This was a line that seems to be about Leah. In the previous episode, we saw that she checked in on Leah after watching the video of Annie K at 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was definitely a feeling there that was of Liz fearing that with the protesting that Leah was doing, she was going to end up with a similar fate to what Annie had, and it seems like this is something that's going to take more of a focus and develop on in episode 5. Underneath the dialogue, there was a shot of all of the protesters around the mining facility. And there was also a shot of Leah looking like what Annie did in the protest that Annie participated in, with the smudged ink over her lips. This was also accompanied with a scene where it looked like Leah was about to be hit by a police officer. So it seems like Liz is right to have those worries, because it looks like Leah is going to end up in some kind of trouble with the authorities. After this, there was then a quick succession of shots which seemed to be focused around Hank and Pete. There was one of Hank out on the ice hacking into something, but there was also one of Pete looking disappointed after finding something out from Danvers, where she said the line, "You need to learn when to stop asking questions," which then concluded this section with a shot of him holding his weapon up at somebody. I could only presume that Pete would be holding his weapon up at his father, as I don't think there is anybody else that we've seen Pete have conflict with other than him. So maybe he finds something out about his father. There's not much said about his mother, so maybe there's something that happened there in the past. I do wonder about Pete to a certain degree. There's been these subtle things that just make me wonder if he could be involved in some way. For example, there was a line that the vet forensic person said where he was baffled at how Pete was looking at the bodies and the numbness that he had to them. There's also the information that he just keeps managing to pull up, and also when Connolly said how Pete was a great cop and that he was one to watch, in a good way that is. Those subtle lines just make me think that there's something cooking underneath, and the carpet is going to be pulled. To be honest, I doubt he'd even have time to orchestrate any kind of murder or be behind the cult in some way. He barely has any time to be with his wife. After this, there was then a shot of a protester throwing ink at the riot police car, which seemed to have Evangeline inside of it working alongside them. And also one of Karvik handing the stone with the spiral ingrained onto it back to Evangeline, with the sequence then finishing with Evangeline out on the ice and then seeing her flashback in front of her, where the explosion that took place when she was serving in the military occurred. Something we still don't know that much about, but I feel we will learn more of in the next episode. The trailer concluded with Evangeline saying, "We are this close," to which Liz responded by saying, "It ends here. Alright, it's over." Most likely showing that Liz has given in to what Connolly said to her. One thing about this shot that I thought was interesting was the fact that it's the most disheveled that we've seen Evangeline. Every time that we've seen her up until now, she's had her hair done, her uniform on, and she's been looking quite sharp. Whereas here, it looks like she's had barely any sleep and there's been a lot that's been going on inside of her mind. So it feels like the spirit that seems to be wandering around the never-ending darkness of Ennis is going to be bringing that darkness towards Evangeline and causing her to spiral deeper and deeper into the depths of depravity. Then the trailer finished. I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left of this season. There's a lot to wrap up still, but I feel there's still plenty of opportunities for this season to go out with a real bang. Whilst there have been some criticisms of season 4, I don't think it's actually been that bad. I think the tone of it has been spot on. They've nailed the haunting essence that I think they wanted to get across, and they've provided a case that's so confusing to follow that you almost feel the frustration of the police force. It could still go wrong in the end, don't get me wrong, but I'm optimistic about this one. So remember, the new episode drops on Friday on streaming, not Sunday because of the Super Bowl. So, there you have it, True Detective Season 4 Episode 5 Trailer Explained.